The Dentalpreneur Podcast. Okay, doctor, it's time to put down that handpiece. You're listening to the show dedicated to helping dentists get their lives back. It's time to decrease your stress, increase your profitability, and regain your passion. Now introducing your host, Dr. Mark Costas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. What's up, my friends? I hope you're doing great out there today. Well, it seems as though we completely skipped fall here in Prescott, Arizona. We went straight from 80-degree weather 2 weeks ago to came to the office. It was 27 degrees. So I'm hoping that we get some snow on our nearby mountains so I can get some snowboarding in with my sons this year. But enough about weather. I'm very excited because I have a friend that's been on the podcast before, and we have lots of interesting talking points when the microphones are off. One of the people that I feel like I could talk to for hours and hours and hours. So she's going to help us out with some of her views and talk about revenue cycle management and all things when it comes to teams and making sure that we get paid in our dental offices. Let's welcome back to the podcast, Penny Reed. She's the Chief Growth Officer at eAssist Solutions and the author of Growing Your Dental Business. With over 30 years in dental business coaching, she's been recognized as the leader in dental consulting by Dentistry Today since 2007. Penny is a certified behavioral consultant and former Dale Carnegie trainer supporting eAssist's executive team in people services. A sought-after speaker, she focuses on team coachability, revenue cycle management, and practice growth. Penny is the member of the Speaking and Consulting Network, ADOM, faculty at the Nash Institute, and an advisor to UT's Digital Marketing Certification Program. Penny, welcome back. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing really well. And it's always a pleasure to get to visit with you. As we were chatting before, I think we could talk for hours. But in case your audience is worried that we're going to do that during this episode, we won't talk that long.
I think that in a couple different episodes, we talked about kind of your genesis story, how you got into dentistry in the first place. I would love to talk right now with you about speaking and what it is that you do when you hit the road, how often you do that, and the typical day in the life of Penny Reed.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So how often I hit the road, it varies. Sometimes it's a couple of times a month. Sometimes it's a couple of times a week. And I speak at various trade shows, and often we had a series last year called Doctor, It's Time to Give Yourself a Raise. And I'll go ahead and mention, if you want a copy of an ebook by that title, if you go to dentalbilling.info, that goes straight to a landing page where you will see a picture of me. You'll know you're on the right page. And there's a couple of goodies that I'll reference there. But we were out sharing the message of revenue cycle management, which I will talk a little bit more, because I think that's a group of words that are coupled together in a lot of places, and still a lot of the dental audience is not sure what that is. I wasn't when I first heard it. So, but a day in my life can look like anywhere from me being on an airplane, on the road, catching meetings here and there, having the privilege to support, be on our executive team and work to help continue to develop and improve the culture of our 2,000 plus employees. Also doing some work as a content expert with our marketing team and helping with PR. And I have a little bit of a short attention span, so this is the perfect role for me because I get to do a lot of things. Every day is different.
Another reason I think that we get along. I have a very short attention span as well, Penny. What are your favorite topics to speak on? So revenue cycle management. Let's start with that one because you speak about that. But to your point, let's kind of clarify what that even means for maybe somebody that's never heard those words together. We kind of understand the billing department and we understand collections, we understand accounts receivable, but what do those three words mean together?
Well, I laid out one of the first times that I spoke about this because I needed the visual for it. If you think about a pipeline, from the time that the patient calls the office or schedules, or we first get their information, all the way, next to an insurance verification if they have insurance. Like it's everything from that. Yes, we found out whether or not they have a plan of benefit to the diagnosis and treatment plan, then the work being done, and then the handpieces being hung up and the patient being, cleaned up and prettied up. And now, they're sent to handle the rest of their account if they haven't done that already. So where it ends is the end of the revenue cycle management is the practice has been paid what they're rightfully owed for the treatment on behalf of the patient and the insurance company. So if we don't have the appropriate benefit information, if the patient has insurance, like there can be a domino effect that takes place. If we're not having appropriate conversations with the patient around their treatment plan, being confident in presenting our full fee, which, let's face it, is not inexpensive, right? Dentistry is an investment, and the power of when I'm lecturing, I talk about the power of the belief and that we can't buy into what we think patients want. We really have to find out what it is that they want. And then this is a team effort. Do we have the clinical documentation to support, not only in writing, but also in the images that we have to support the treatment that we did? Is the claim going out the door clean? And then if we do get pushback from the insurance, are we being tenacious in our follow-up? How many times, right? Payments posted timely, all the way to if we have a statement to sending the statement. So that whole revenue cycle also sits under, if you were to think about it sitting under an umbrella of if we are contracted with PPOs, and if so, how are we contracted? So it isn't only about what I used to think it was and how I was taught years ago when it was simply the present the treatment, make a financial agreement, be sure that you're not extending payments on the office's behalf directly to the patient, and then be sure that by the time the treatment is finished, that it's paid in full. It's gotten easier in some ways and also exponentially more complicated now that PPOs are involved, if offices are participating in those, and also with AI, which is a double-edged sword and one of the biggest changes that we're seeing in how claims are being either auto-adjudicated or pushed back for more information. So how's that for a definition?
That's wonderful. I like it because you started from the very basics. So like benefit breakdown, making sure that all of that information is accurate, because we've seen this a lot, right? So people are like, okay, yes, we intend to tell the patient kind of a little bit about their benefits when we're presenting treatment plan, but they don't have like an effective method for gathering that information from the insurance company, right? So, we all know how tedious like getting insurance benefits is. And sometimes it could be 25 minutes with one of your people on the phone, or you could have some sort of an outsourced or automated solution to that. But if that is messed up from the beginning, if the information is inaccurate from the beginning, it's like building a skyscraper on sand, right? You won't have a good foundation.
Absolutely.
And it's the first domino in many dominoes that's going to go awry, right? So if you don't know that they used $900 of their $2,000 benefit for the year because they didn't tell you and it didn't show up in some sort of a screening process, then you're going to be assuming that they have $2,000, and that's the first mistake. And then that's going to move on to the treatment plan, which is inaccurate, which the copay is going to be inaccurate, which their portion is going to be inaccurate. They're going to be angry. You're going to be trying to send, statements to them, and it all starts poorly. It's going to end poorly. Garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
We've all heard of that.
It's a breakdown of relationship, and it really ends up hurting, it ends up hurting your marketing. I mean, those are some of the most common complaints that patients have is they'll say dentistry is expensive. Well, it is expensive. And back when I did full-time coaching, I had 3 clients in a small town of 10,000. They all were, one referred another, and then they referred their friend. So, they all knew that I was working with them, but they had very different fee schedules. And even in the practice with the lower fee schedule, same comments from patients about, it's an investment. And most patients coming in may not be prepared for the type of investment it is. So it's the break when it's not done well. Not only does it impact your profitability, directly the owner profitability, it also is the breakdown of those relationships and very difficult to recover from if not done well.
Indeed. Okay. So as you get more sophisticated in this game, right? So you have this situation right now, and I think we're coming out of it. Mm-hmm. It probably started just prior to the global pandemic. And then it feels as though things have been different in the workforce ever since. We had, mass exodus, 20,000+ people left dentistry in general, auxiliaries, many hygienists. So it kind of changed the way that we staff up our practices. A lot of times by necessity, right? So many skeleton crews out there, a lot more outsourcing happening. Mm-hmm. So when we bring a warm body on, they could have the best ever personality. They could be a great culture fit. I'm making a huge amount of assumptions because those people are few and far between as well. But then you have to train them up properly to make sure that they're gathering the right information and that your own internal revenue cycle management protocol is tight, or else you're going to end up with these problems and issues that we were just talking about. So a lot of people have turned to outsourcing different aspects, right? Outsourcing insurance verification, outsourcing the whole RCM kind of process within the dental practice. When do you think it's a good idea to outsource or automate versus trying to keep it in-house?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I faced this initially when I was a full-time practice management coach, in that I had a client ask me, hey, what do you think about outsourcing dental billing? This was probably 2015, 2016. And I thought it was a terrible idea when I first heard about it, right? I mean, it was this limiting belief that I had in my mind. It was like, wow, you can't do that. I just really was not thinking outside of the box. And then one of his colleagues had already begun to outsource to eAssist, of all groups. Like, this is how I found out about eAssist. And so what led that first dentist that I knew of to do it has sort of been the rule of thumb that I have followed all along, was he couldn't find someone that was qualified to do that for him. Mm-hmm. And this is not, this skill, and while there's more information out there now than there ever has been, from looking in the Facebook groups, a lot of the group share information is wrong. And that's probably one of the most frightening things that I see, is there's no shortage of individuals out there now to give you an opinion about how to file a claim or how to get something paid.
Sure.
The consequences of that information could be significant. So I would say, number one is, you've lost the person that handled your dental billing, the filing of the claims, the follow-up of the claims, and also the patient portion. So you either have lost them, or there are other areas on the administrative team, especially, where you have a deficit and you either need to pull that person over into another role, or it's your office manager and he or she can't effectively do the dental billing and be able to really support you in managing the practice. So I recommend, when you think about outsourcing, it's a partnership. Mm-hmm. There are so many things related to revenue cycle that you can't outsource. You really can't outsource diagnosis and treatment planning. You really can't outsource the clinical documentation. That's a lot of the, if you want to think about a partnership, almost like a square dance, that we do with offices, is if the diagnostic films, images are not there, and if the clinical notes are not there, then we do have to follow back up with the office to say, okay, we see that this was done. What was the reason that it was done, right? Or what did you find when you're in there? We're getting pushback from the insurance company that they're saying that there's not enough, maybe we don't have the right type of x-ray or the right documentation to show what the bone level was for a perio claim. So that's, I think, where AI, and we have a member of our team, Dr. Jim DeMarino, who's the CEO of Practice Booster, which is our educational division, that used to be a dental director. So, there's more auto adjudication going on of where things are not automatically being processed because the AI on the insurance company's end is saying, hey, we're not showing that much bone loss. I mean, it doesn't mean that it can't be paid. It just means, okay, we need more information from how this is appearing. We're not seeing what you're seeing. And all of it, sadly, it stems from the amount of fraud that was happening. It's the few that ruined it for the many, where now the burden of proof is, on whether or not it needed to be done or it was done is falling on the dental practice.
How open have insurance companies been to accepting AI generated data?
As long, and I'm going to quote my good buddy, Dr. Jim, I think they're definitely open to it. As that by itself, you still have to have the clinical documentation. What I've heard Dr. Jim say is send the unedited, often you'll send the image in that only has the AI on it. You still want to send the unedited image as well. And I think they're very open to it because, not that I think we all have a love-hate relationship with the insurance payers. They do drive a lot of patients in, at least for a recare visit, because they do have a plan of benefit. They've had it for quite some time. So it's not new to them. And it costs them, if a claim is payable, it costs them a lot less to pay it the first time than to have it, if a claim is sent back and it's been rejected and then it is resubmitted to the insurance company, the same dentist that rejected it in the first place can't be the one to reject it again. Like, it involves more of their payroll every time they have to review it. So I think, it's not unwelcome. I do think that from the standpoint of, and I don't know when this will really come into play to where you almost have to have it in order to get claims paid. But if you haven't adopted it in your practice yet, I think it's something that you really do want to consider, especially if you have multiple practitioners, from a standard of care in the office. Go ahead.
No. That was great. I think that from what I understand, dental insurance companies have utilized AI from their side as well to make sure that the claims that are being submitted really do necessitate treatment. I think what's happened, and I think that we can probably calibrate this better, but what happens is there's different sensitivity levels, just like in x-rays, right? So you can turn it way down for your own purposes. Like if you wanted to deny more claims, you make it very, very difficult based on the AI, what the AI is looking for, because it's a teachable software, right? So if the AI is looking for a certain thing and it's not calibrated with what the doctor is looking at, then of course you're going to have conflict. You're going to have
a gap.
You're going to have a gap, a change of objective opinion just because of what you're looking at and the sensitivities of the software. I think we can get to the other side of that. Tell me this, like if we are going to outsource RCM, a lot of, I believe in it very, very much because first of all, I think that, insurance verification is very, very time consuming. And if you're going to be allowing an office manager or a $25 an hour front office lead to sit on hold for that length of time while you're verifying all these insurances, it's a huge waste of time. I think you can do that much more effectively, right? So that outsourcing that makes a whole lot of sense, but then you have to find the right, partner and company to outsource to. What needs to happen within your dental practice? Like what personnel is necessary as kind of the go-between, boots on the ground between your outsourced RCM company and what's happening in your dental practice? Because they still need the information, and there needs to be a liaison between your practice and the RCM company.
Yeah, I agree. So, a couple of things clinically, and I think this is where it's important when you have team meetings that you're developing standards across the board as far as what supporting documentation that we do have. So I'll speak to back when I helped coach those liaisons, right? It was like, oh, okay, well, we'll outsource to eAssist. All right, great. Well, what you need in the office is being sure, number one, that the clinical documentation is there. And it was a bit of a game changer when the daily reports came back from eAssist and eAssist was requesting the information instead of an administrative team member, because there in many offices is that tension between the clinical team and the admin team, because the admin team's like, well, we need more information. And then often the clinical team's like, well, why don't you just do your job? Right. I mean, there can be a lot of misunderstanding around that. So
For sure.
I've seen varying individuals that work in the administrative department help with this. Sometimes it's been an office manager. Other times it's been someone that has been one of the, receptionists. Maybe they're doing, the patient check-in, check-out. What's required if you're fully outsourcing your dental billing, like not only the insurance verification, is for either for us to have the logins to be able to pull the EOBs from the payers, and or any that come into the office, we have you scan those in, right? And then we actually do all the posting. So you can do, most of our services are a la carte, but you can outsource everything from insurance verification to the dental billing. So the filing, the follow-up, and the posting of the dental insurance part. Also the patient portion. So the only service that relies on another one is you have to have dental billing to do patient portion, because so many of the patient balances stem from how the dental billing was done, to the statements, the whole piece of it. We also can do EFT reconciliation, which your accountants will love. And we also offer as a standalone service dental accounting, or it's dental bookkeeping. So if any of you have ever been embezzled from and you're very concerned about letting someone in your office have access to like the keys to the kingdom, right? Your dental practice management software and QuickBooks, you can utilize us, and we can make sure with our protocols that the same individuals that are handling your dental billing on our team are also not handling your dental accounting. But one thing, Mark, that you referenced that I think in many cases is worse than what we think, and I have an image that I share when I am presenting from an actual phone call from one of our eAssist dental billers to an insurance company, and she had been on hold for an hour and 48 minutes. And so one of the biggest distinctions when you're looking at an outsourced partner, and I think this really stems when you're asking when should you consider outsourcing, a lot of it comes down to two things: return on investment and accountability. So while this particular individual wasn't necessarily holding for an insurance verification, that's how long she had been on hold trying to get a claim paid. So our billers are paid on commission. So if you get a rejected claim and you are maybe someone that's not that highly qualified, that's working in an office, you might refile it once. But if it's going to take a ton of your time and maybe it's only a couple of $100s, it could just end up in a stack, right? So you want someone that's got the tenacity to see it through. The other thing that I would say is, from years of doing coaching, it can be very difficult, especially for the practice owner, sometimes even for the office manager, to know what everyone on the admin team is working on at all times, right? You see your insurance coordinator headset on, phone call after phone call. Oh, I'm on hold. Well, what did we pay them to do all day today? Is all they did verify insurance, right? Did they get anything paid? So the reporting is something that I think is huge. And can it be done in-house? Sure, it can, right? But you would need to give kind of a scorecard to your internal biller to say, how many verifications did you do today? How many claims did you follow up on that had been rejected? How many rejections did you win, right? And then very closely looking at the KPIs of how often are claims that are, at the 30-day mark, are we following up with those consistently every 2 weeks? So what prevents most dental billers in an office from doing a job that maybe they're even capable of doing is time. right? So the time, the other is the expertise to do it well. And that's something that we're currently working on our educational platform as well, is to create certificate programs for dental billers and for dental coders to not only help us grow our bench, but we also realize everyone won't outsource. So we're also looking to help level up the playing field from an educational standpoint as well.
I like that a lot. I like it. So when you are working with an office, as you know, Penny, I mean, dental practices vary as much as anything else in the world. I mean, they're like snowflakes, just like you and I are. There's nobody just like us, and there's no dental practice that's exactly like another. But I mean, they will vary in many, many different ways. So if you're taking on a client and you recognize that, oh my goodness, like we're having an issue with a ton of claims that need to be sent out to the patient base following treatment, right? So your financial policy potentially is loose, or maybe the patient base needs to be re-educated as far as here's how we do it now that I'm a new owner of a dental practice. I can't just bill you for everything. So maybe financial policy needs to be tightened up, defined and then tightened up. And then you have kind of the risk of operations being loose or like not super systemized. So maybe its treatment notes are not getting entered in adequately, or maybe you're cone cutting all of your x-rays, you're missing the apex, you're submitting a bite wing when it really should be a PA, those sorts of things. So operational kind of inadequacy or financial policy inadequacy. When you go in, the only way for you to be successful is if you get their help for certain things that are happening within the dental practice. And then you have your bit that you have to ace as well in order to kind of turn things around for this dental practice as far as getting their money. So how do you guys educate them to make sure that that's going to be, a mutually beneficial partnership?
Yeah, well, it's great questions. And I'll tell you, this is one of the things that impressed me when I first came on board at eAssist 4 years ago. And then as we've, continued to grow is what I would call our launch team, right? So if you talk to a business development representative and we find out what software you have and what your biggest challenges are that you want to solve and where you want to begin, we match you up with the team based on what your needs are, what the volume of, what your claims and accounts receivable are. And then we have what's called the kickoff call. And during that kickoff call, that's where, as you mentioned, every practice, and no one's ever called me a snowflake before. Like that might be that may be the best compliment that I get today. I've definitely been called unique. And so, we really work to get in alignment to help solve the challenge. And it is, I would say, especially over the first 90 days, if you are a potential client looking to outsource, it's like anything else that you will get out of it what you put into it. So, we highly encourage a weekly huddle where we can talk about what we're finding. And even though it may be uncomfortable and we don't do it in any sort of, finger pointing way, if you get a report back from an outside source that says, hey, this x-ray really isn't, what we need. Now, when you go back to the clinical team, it's a different, thing in the office. When you're looking at it and going, okay, we had 5 of these come back this week. This is an area of opportunity because whether you outsource to eAssist or anyone else, or you keep it in-house, that issue is there, right? Mm-hmm. So it really can help, level the playing field. And I always say, internally, maybe make a little bit of a, an upbeat sort of game around it. It's like, how many of these are we getting? If it starts out that there's 10 a week, well, what if we get it down to where there's only 1, right? Maybe we have a pizza party, just something where we can celebrate, look at how much, look at how far we've come. So, but the other would be for those weekly huddles to be sure that someone's, showing up, whether it's the office manager or, another member of the team that's sort of owning that communication. We also have a really amazing tool that will soon be connected into it's an AI tech enabled engine called Copilot. And right now it only works with a certain software, but we're really building it to where it'll be software agnostic, to where instead of an email, which is what we used to have to do, right? A phone call or an email, and think about how many emails you get. It's kind of like a Slack for dentistry, right? It's a HIPAA compliant way to communicate back and forth to where we can really say, hey, we reached out, we sent these communications, we didn't hear back. So if there are practices that for whatever reason feel like, okay, well, we don't have time to focus on that, then they're probably not going to be successful outsourcing to anyone, right? And they probably are also going to have those same challenges internally. So it's really kind of making that decision, just like someone makes a decision to have you coach them, right? That we're no longer willing to tolerate not getting paid, having our collection percentage be at 91% net collections when it should be at 98%. Like, this is going to impact my retirement, my ability, as a dentist, my ability to give pay increases, my income and paying off debt and having a big enough why. I think that's a lot of the answer.
Yeah. That's a great answer. Penny, when you look at the typical dental practice, you have a couple things going on, right? Especially PPO focused practices, even if they're greater than 50% PPO. I have a lot of members / clients that like to tell me that, like, hey, it was a great year. I produced $3 million. They're like, well, after adjustments, it was 2.2. It's like, well, tell me what your adjusted production is, instead of like beating yourself up over the $800,000 or $500,000 that you wrote off because you accepted PPOs. That's the reality of the situation. That's what you can potentially get, right? So you have like the PPO write-offs, let's just say 30%. And then you have, in your example, maybe you have a practice that has a 91% production collections ratio, adjusted production to collections ratio, right? So you're losing 30% here and you're losing another 9% here. So that's like, that just compounds the problem. So what are some ways, if we're going to play this PPO game, which I for better or for worse, most dental practices are going to have to accept some level of dental insurances, some PPOs. God bless the people that are able to successfully grow and scale a strictly out-of-network fee-for-service office, but those are getting fewer and further between.
Yeah,
what are the best ways that we can assure that doctors are getting paid? How about that for a tee up?
Thank you for asking. And I have 5. Yeah. There's probably more than 5, but we'll try to distill it down into 5 strategies to help you increase your collections. And I'm going to start with what was actually my third one. But you don't have to focus on the order of them. But when you're talking about the PPO piece, and I would say, again, just to ditto what you're saying, if you're making it happen out of network, kudos to you, right? I definitely would watch your numbers, watch your active patient base. Who wouldn't want to get their full fee on every single patient, right? So, but if a patient has insurance, we always want to share what the full fee is with them, right? So I'm in full agreement. If it's a $1,500 full fee procedure, we want to let them know that that's what the fee is. Now, in reality, after insurance adjustments, that may be a $1,200 fee, right? Or it could be less than that. But here's a distinction that I came to in the last few years that I was coaching, is that most software companies are aware that this is a thing, right? And a lot of offices will say, well, I want to know. And of course you do. I want to know what that full fee is. Like, I want to continue to have that show on my books, because I want to be able to see what that write-off is. Well, there's a sophistication in most softwares that will allow you to charge the insurance company with a PPO plan, right? So with a contracted plan, that the full fee goes out on the claim. The fee schedule fee, right? So let's say you participate with 3 different plans. Each of those 3 also has their fee schedule, goes on the ledger. When the treatment plan is shown to the patient, it shows the full fee and the fee schedule fee. So automatically you're kind of getting a little bit of a, marketing bump, some goodwill there with the patient, but it is still showing them the full fee. But here's the beauty of all of this is that you're not just looking at a pile like what you're describing. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, the difference between what we produced and what we actually collected is, $700,000. And we're not really sure what a lot of that is. And so with your insurance analysis reports, you can actually see what your gross production would have been, right? You can see what your write-offs were per plan and per procedure, which when you go to, and I'll touch on this in a moment, work with negotiating fees or PPO management, that's going to help you a whole lot more than you just saying, okay, well, here was our gross production, which again, we want the full fee on the claim. But what frightens me when I look at insurance adjustments, even if we have them broken down by plan, even if we've been meticulous and said this many were from Delta, this was from Blue Cross, this was from MetLife, it's just a big pile that I'm just having to blindly trust. And I'm a big believer in smart trust. Extending smart trust is one of our core values at eAssist. So trust but verify. I'm just trusting that those insurance adjustments, that's no more or no less than what needs to be adjusted. So I want to see them by payer, by procedure, because even when you do the PPO negotiation, it's not every procedure code that you need a bump on. You need a bump on the ones that you use. And so that, I think that is huge. So again, if you're in network, your dental software company can help you with this setting. But here's the other thing that this first point it's now my first point that I'm sharing with you will do is that it allows you and your team to see the reality fee of what you're billing out every day. So full fee goes out on the claim form. Reality collectible fee is what shows up on your day sheet every day. And so you don't have this whole, man, we are crushing it. We produced $700,000 this month, when in reality it was $550,000.
Yeah.
So that to me, the stars may lie, but the numbers never do. Mary Chapin Carpenter may have felt lucky, but there's no luck when it comes to knowing your numbers and managing this in the office.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. So we got number 3 down. We got number 1 down.
Yeah, that was number 3.
Okay.
Number 3. All right, number 1,
okay.
You have to know the value of your chair time by department. Did you hear an echo there?
Yeah,
or was that just on my end?
I think the internet's slowing down a little bit. So yeah, I'm feeling a little bit of an echo, but it's pretty clean. We can clean it up.
Okay, I don't know if you want to mark the time and then I'll pick back up.
37:38. Yep. Okay, go for it.
Okay. All right. So the first one, you have to know the value of your dollar per chair hour time. So what is an hour of operative chair time worth? What is an hour of hygiene chair time worth? And the reason for that is if you are considering participating with PPOs and there are those plans where you cannot, do the work that needs to be done in that amount of time and not be in the negative, then that's not a plan that you need to participate with. Or you can use that as leverage when you are trying to negotiate fees, is to say, look, we can't do this work for, in the allotted time that we need and see these patients. And so the other would be, once you do know what that is, also looking at, do you have the volume presently to sustain an out-of-network practice? Hey, I get it. I've felt the frustration. I've heard the frustration. I've seen the wave of all the comments on social media. Hey, we're going out of network, which is great if you have the volume to sustain it. And so you've got to know not only what your chair hour value is, you need to know what the volume of your schedule is with out-of-network patients. It takes about a year really to do it well. If you're going out of network, you've got to have a marketing plan in place, and you really need to understand how much your active patient base has been growing, because marketing is what will make what will be the difference that you'll have to make up with that. So,
Totally.
But a lot of offices do not know what an hour of, if you, an operative chair hour would be, you take your operative production divided by the number of operative chair hours you have, right? So you take into account how many chairs you're running in op, same thing for hygiene, and then looking at what is your break even. Now, this is before you get paid, right? But just from your overhead break even, and then as well as with what your forecast is, can you even do it? And if it, of course, it's going to be less than what it would be at full fee. But if you can't do that and exceed what your reimbursement is on, if your reimbursement doesn't exceed what that chair hour value is, then that's not a plan that you need to be participating with.
Right. If you're losing money, you can't make up for it with volume.
Right. And then the second one, and wow, we recently acquired, eAssisted a majority interest in Unitas PPO Solutions. Okay. And boy, have I learned more. That is some of the most confusing. You have to think, who even said that this was doable? Yeah. These umbrella plans and lease networks. Someone figured out basically how to operate an insurance company without opening an insurance company, right? They've figured out how to do these lease networks. So here's what happens is when a doctor signs up for a plan, they think they've seen their PPO contract, when in reality, what they've seen are the signature pages. So if you've, so if this is an office manager that may be doing this for you, if you've looked through 8 to 10 pages, you've only seen the signature pages. You haven't seen the full contract, which will say that they have permission in many cases to lease out your participation to another network. So you can be, and we often see this happening when you're saying, hey, what's the onboarding process like? That a lot of practices truly have no idea who all they're in network with. Yeah. It's like being in a hurry to take down your Christmas decorations and not winding the lights up properly. And then they're just in a big mass. Yeah. And it's super confusing. So I would say having a professional partner, outsourced partner, assist you with your PPO management, or if you're looking to start a practice, looking to see which plans would be of most benefit to you starting out and which ones that you may want to stay away from. There are a lot of attorneys that create these PPO contracts on the insurance side, and you definitely want to work with a group that has attorneys, you know what I'm saying, that can help watch this, and it can change month to month. So that's another area where you want to have somebody monitoring what's going on with your plans, especially if you participate in 5 plans or more.
Yeah, that's great. What is now knowing just a little bit about the process, or at least kind of a high level of it, how long does it take for the process and like before they can get some real tangible progress going?
Yeah, I would say based on what I'm hearing, it's going to take at least 90 days, in order for them to see what you're contracted with and begin to work with the payers. And the great thing about working with a large group, whether it's Unitas or someone else, is that they have relationships with these payers. Like they know, because of the thousands and thousands of these that they do, they can push back a little bit and say, hey, we know that this is happening, in this state, or we know that this is happening with this other plan, and it gives them a little bit more leverage. But I would say it's around the 90-day mark when you would begin to see some differences. And really, if you're going to do something like that, I would plan on about a year. And Unitas is great. Like they'll look at your situation. If they think they can make a difference for you, they'll tell you. If they think that their PPO management product is more than what you need, they can let you know that too. And they have different products to work with whatever your needs are.
Love it. Okay. So we got 3 down, 2 to go.
Yeah, we got 3 down. All right. The fourth one, and you touched on this earlier, make collecting the patient's portion, pre-treatment or at treatment, part of your protocols. It's all about managing expectations. And even if we have done the whole, hey, we'll file your insurance and then we'll send you a bill. And it starts with the conversation, right? Nobody likes surprises. So we can always let some of those patients, where it's been that way when we're, having the discussion to say, hey, I know that this is what we've done in the past. And, we've had, I wouldn't use the word policy, right? But I would just say, our protocols have changed a little bit. And so what we're asking is that your estimated portion, and I would have, so on that dentalbilling.info page that I mentioned, there's a sample financial agreement form, whether you use that form or you have your own. If it's over a certain dollar amount, let's say maybe $1,000, I would, not that you're extending payments, but I would get something in writing at the time that we're scheduling that acknowledges how the patient plans to pay. Because I don't care how many times we repeat it, they have amnesia. Oh. And sometimes the amnesia can even be dropping a zero off the end of the dollar amount. It's like, wait a minute, that's 20,000. You said it was 2,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing that I would say is, so not only making that part of the protocol, but bringing options like care credit or whatever third-party payment plan that may be your preference, and hopefully you have more than one. Mm-hmm. Bringing them to the front of the conversation instead of the end. The average patient is really not prepared to spend more than $800 a year on their dental health. That's not even a crown.
Right.
So if the minute that we throw that big dollar amount, and I've watched it happen, like I've watched the patient's whole response, and it's like, well, do I have to pay that today? Why are we even putting them through that? Mm-hmm. Right? Why don't we start with that other option and say, or, then we can end with or if you want to go ahead and take care of that today, we can do that with a 5% courtesy. As the economy continues to squeeze consumers, I think leveraging things like this, there's a reason why Lowe's and Best Buy and all of these stores offer these payment plans, mm-hmm. right? It's so that they can move more merchandise. And if we want more patients to be healthy, then we have to find ways to help them do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Online, it's funny.
But that also keeps the icky. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying online, it's funny. If you buy a pair of pants off of a website, they offer you, 4 easy payments. It's automatic now. Like it's ingrained into mm-hmm. consumer culture. So I don't think it's as taboo as it used to be to offer like, hey, here's a third party payor. You can make, comfortable monthly payments, especially as the size of the treatment plans increase with ortho and, full mouth rehabs and, all on X type treatment, advanced surgical procedures. A lot of times, if you present a $25,000 case, people are going to walk right out. But if you say, hey, look, this is going to be more like, $350 a month, sure. You're going to be able to close a lot more treatment.
Absolutely. And I think the stat I've heard is I'll think about it, is there's about a 33% chance that they will come back to your practice and have that done ever. Mm. So it doesn't mean that they'll never get it done, right? But the likelihood that they're going to come back and get it done at all or at your office is only about a third.
Yeah.
And so the being able to, and it's not only about us getting hitting our numbers. Those patients, their dental health is not going to improve. It's just going to continue to get worse and cost them even more. So, all right. So the fifth thing, which could probably be 5 things all in itself, and we've touched on a good bit of this, is be sure that you have a solid dental billing plan, right? From the clinical documentation. One thing we have not talked about is coding for what you do and knowing the current codes. There's about 900 codes in the CDT code set. It's not important that everybody on your team knows all of them. Mm-hmm. What's most important is that they know the 150 to 180 that you're using on a regular basis, and that the entire team is aware. That's probably, and I understand that everybody's busy, and often offices will say, well, if we have team meetings, what do we talk about? How about we talk about how to get paid? Everyone having an awareness, and especially when they change. Mm-hmm. There's now, and this is more in Dr. Jim's wheelhouse, or Dr. Greg on our team, there's now a code, and I couldn't tell you what it is. You'll have to look in your CDT book. No, actually, it's when you go to do an adjustment, if you have a patient that you did a procedure on, and we're not talking about 2 weeks later or a month later, even 3 months later, but if someone comes in and complains of a rough spot and you go in and smooth that off in a hygiene visit, in most cases, that's billable.
Really?
And most offices don't realize it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the whole cliffhanger of why you probably want to go out to Practice Booster. The other thing, when you're saying what to look for in an outsourced dental billing company, we're the largest provider of educational content from the ADA, right? We're a partner with the American Dental Association, and we provide a subscription to the Code Advisor, which is an online version of like our Coding with Confidence, but it's got the whole what needs to be included, the deleted codes, when to use caution, all of that in there. And so you can type in a procedure code, you can type in what you're doing, and it will pull up the codes. So we make sure that offices have the tools that they need in order to be able to do that. We've talked about being sure claims are clean. I hate to say this, Mark, I don't know if I told you this in a previous episode or not, but I had a week of training 34 years ago when I was a dental office manager. And I knew this was, and we didn't start e-claims until about a year in. And of course, they were transmitted over a fax line. You could hear them going out. But other than, I knew that perio claims needed a periodontal chart, and I knew that crowns and bridges needed x-rays. I really didn't review the claims. It was more of like, push the button and send them, and then we'll see what doesn't go through, and I'll deal with those when they come back in. I mean, that was terrible. Like, I was creating problems. I was creating this basket full of letters that came back when it was saying, hey, you did a root canal. Where are the pre-op and post-op? And it was because I didn't know. So being sure that they're as clean as they possibly can be so that they're not automatically rejected before they even go out.
Yeah.
And then that tenacious follow-up, being sure that, and I would have someone on the team, whether it's the office manager, or if it's the office manager, if you're doing this in-house, maybe it's the dentist, before you write off something that, unless it was related to the PPO contract, I would have someone approving that. That's what frightens me about these big piles of write-offs. What did we write off? Like, what was that? Was that actually collectible? And so that's why it's also super important, and this is part of what I would call the solid dental billing plan, that you're not only monitoring your gross collection percentage, but your net collection percentage. Because if you have been writing off things that you shouldn't have, that net collection percentage should be going up. And then also your over 90 days insurance, if you're sending out clean claims, should be at zero or near zero. And we have like an internal achievement stat that we highlight from our billers every month. That's called the 4-minute mile. And that is, we shine a light on the e-assisters that have offices with 98% or greater collections, and the insurance over 90 days is less than 1,000, because so many people thought, hey, that's not possible. But yet once you see that it's possible in hundreds of offices, right? Roger Bannister 4-minute mile. Like,
Love
these
it.
are the ones that are doing the things that other people said were not possible. So to recap those in order, know your scheduling stats, the value of your chair hour time, and also your volume. So that was number one. The second one, have an expert do your PPO management. Maybe you have one in-house. Those are very few and far between, but I'd have someone that's not done dozens of these. They've done thousands. If the patient has insurance, be sure the full fee is on the claim. If it's a PPO, full fee on the claim, fee schedule fee on the ledger. Your software company can help you with that. And then make collecting co-payments, pre-treatment, or at treatment part of your protocols is number 4. And then number 5, be sure that you have a solid dental billing plan. And also, if you're using an outsourced partner, I would be sure to find out what sort of reporting mechanisms you're going to get back from them and how often, because you should get a higher level of accountability in reporting and data and what's happening from an outsourced partner than you get in-house, because that's what we do.
Yeah. Great stuff. Amazing stuff, Penny. It's funny that last point where you're talking about clean claims. It's so true, because I remember my first few practices, we would just push those claims out as fast as possible before we realized that, oh man, there's a ton of denials. There's a ton. And then you have to have even a better protocol of following up. The follow-up is always going to be necessary when you're sending claims into a bureaucratic mess. That is the dental insurance gauntlet. But it's so much cleaner for everybody if you just get all the information that they require, put it all together in a nice, readable packet, send it off, and that you'll get so many fewer rejections. And it was funny because you were talking about how it's more expensive for them to do a denial, but they're also counting on you sending something in that's incomplete and never following up. Because a huge percentage,
only about a third ever get followed up on.
Yeah, so the math works in their favor. Actually,
it does.
It does. So I mean, just sending a claim off with incomplete information, or the narrative is off, or the notes are incomplete, it's just always going to be such a longer process, and you have such a less chance of being able to capture all of the money that you're owed for that procedure.
Absolutely. Well, and the other part of it too is if we don't have time to be sure that it's going out clean on the front end, like when do you get the time back?
Yeah.
After now the patient's not in the office, right? Or we really didn't work on it as a team, learning what to do to overcome these things and building some better habits in there. So, yeah.
Great stuff.
It's been a pleasure. This is one of my favorite topics. I'm very passionate about dentists getting paid, and going back to my story, right, of how I got into this. My dentist that hired me, his wife coached me in several sports in high school, and she was in my first job interview with Walmart in another town. It was so funny. The HR person said, "Who is one of your mentors?" And he actually even knew her.
Oh,
right. I mean, but I was like, hey, it's like, who's had one of the greatest influences on you? So when I went to work for him, it was like I went to work for family/hero status, right?
Yeah.
I wanted them to win, and, in every single aspect. And this was definitely an area that had a learning curve for sure.
For sure. Well, Penny, that was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us today. What's the best way for people to reach out to you or to any of the companies that you're working for now?
Yeah, absolutely. So one way is if you want to go to dentalbilling.info, you can complete the contact form, and you also have all the goodies there. And then the other would be to email. Best email would be learnmore@dentalbilling.com.
Awesome. Well, my friend, until next time, I hope that you have a great winter and holiday season. I can't wait to bump into you again at our next event that we are at together. We bump into each other often on the road. We're road warriors. A couple of times a
year, we sure do, like high five going down the aisle.
That's right. And we'll make sure that we get you on the podcast again if you're willing. And I'm happy to hop on yours anytime.
Oh, would love it. Okay. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Penny Reed.